Hey you guys, Yulia here. So today I wanted to update you on some of the garden experiments that I conducted this spring and to let you know what worked, what hasn't. And garden experiments are great because I think when we try to grow things in a different way, or we try some new ways to grow things, that definitely makes us better gardeners. And I will start right here in this bed where I planted some stock or Matthiola this spring. So here are the stock plants that I planted here about a month ago. And the idea was to interplant these beautiful tulips, which were totally damaged by torrential rains that we had over the weekend. But to have these tulips interplanted with a different texture flowers. And stock was perfect for that. They're very cold tolerant, so you can plant them out in the landscape pretty early. However, they haven't bloomed in time. And I see some buds over there, so I would say they probably will bloom in a couple of weeks. So the lesson number one is to start stock from seeds earlier. I would say end of January will be better. I started these middle of February. So I would say end of January will be a lot better. But let me show you what I mean by interplanting with stock. So I bought these stock plants in a nursery about almost 2 months ago, which is great. They last for a very long time. But see how pretty that is with this different texture? Another lesson that I learned this spring is that bunnies love stock. Right after I planted it, the next morning I had damage. You see these little leaves right here? They were chewed up. That one is down to the nubs. And I tried different repel methods. There's different sprays out there in the market like Repel All, Liquid Fence, Bobex, but Plant Skid worked best for me. And I was just really diligent at spraying it, and they actually finally left these alone. And the next experiment is winter sowing Penstemon 3 different ways. So back in the winter, I started this Penstemon hirsutus, which is a beautiful native perennial here in eastern United States. But I wanted to try to winter sow it 3 different methods. So the first one is the classic winter sowing bottles, which I have been doing for years, and I'm very successful here in Zone 6, Northern New Jersey. And the thing about native perennials and a lot of ornamental perennials is that they need stratification period in order for their seeds to germinate. And this penstemon is definitely one of those plants. So you want to start them in the winter so they can get enough of the chill period. For some plants is 30 days, for some 60, for some even 90. So I started some in these bottles, and as you can see, the plants look really healthy. And I opened this bottle about a week ago so they could get some air. And then this one I actually started in the plastic bin, which is a new winter sowing method for me this year. And it also germinated. It looks pretty good. They are a little smaller than these, which doesn't mean it's worse because there's a lot germinated right here. And then I tried a third winter sowing method, which is just to start seeds in a pot. Now, this method is interesting because it is favored by a lot of native plant enthusiasts. They usually start their native seeds out there in the garden, just plain in pots, not covered, or in the soil, not covered, because what you want to see is which plants survive or which seeds germinate under our current conditions. It's almost like a natural selection while the plants are germinating and growing. And the ones that are not germinating, maybe they're not as suitable for current climate conditions that we have. Again, this is not worse than this, it's just different. These plants that germinated here may be different genetically and even stronger than the ones that were protected in the winter. All right, you guys, it's starting to rain a little bit. I don't know if you can see that in the pond, but I'm going to try to hurry up. But the last experiment that I conducted this spring was trying to root sweet peas. And guess what? They actually rooted. It took forever. It took almost a month before I started seeing any roots, and I was about to give up and toss these in the trash. And I am so glad that I didn't. Now, at this point, they're definitely over rooted. See how healthy the roots are, and they need to be planted in soil because they're starting to suffer a little bit. So I saw this method on the internet, and I decided to give it a try. Again, took very long time, so I thought it was maybe, not true, but now we know that we can root those tops of sweet peas when we pinch them in spring. Now the mother plants I already planted out in the garden, so they are growing, they're healthy. I am not sure how these plants are going to look when they bloom, but what I know for sure is that I need to plant them in pots right now. So I have my pots ready here with some potting mix, and I'm going to plant these for about couple of weeks until they root even more in the soil so I can plant them outside. And I will harden these off as per usual with all the other annuals, and then we'll see the result. All right, so here's a sweet pea all planted up. And what I'm going to do next is just place it in my foyer where there's plenty of light, but it is cool because these plants really like to be in a cooler temperature. And I will leave them there for a couple of weeks until they're nicely rooted in here. And then I will plant them out in the landscape. All right, you guys, this is it for today. It's starting to rain really hard right now, but I hope you learned something new in this video. I definitely learned something new this spring, conducting all these experiments. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.